Welcome back to the Stacey Salyer Show, where I talk about when boomers retire, you acquire. So I teach property management business owners and investors on how to go out and source property management companies. And today I have an amazing guest on. In fact, I don't even think she knows this, but I have followed them on social media for the last few years. And this last year, I actually got to meet my amazing guest. So I have Liz Faircloth on from InvestHer, and I'm so excited that you decided to join me today.
Absolutely. Excited to have the conversation. Nice to see you, Stacey.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people know who you are and what you and your co-founder have done, but if you don't mind just kind of giving us a quick recap on all the amazing things that you've built and kind of what you do, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been investing for 2 decades now, which is crazy. You can't see on my gray hair, but I've been investing for a couple decades now, and I started in multifamily. So, when I was in my 20s, my brother-in-law handed me Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I was going to school to become a social worker, wanted to be a therapist.
Ooh.
And he handed me that book and said, you need to read this. So I did. And that forever shifted my perspective on business and entrepreneurship and investing and things that I'd never even heard about, honestly, until I read that book. So at that moment, one of the things in that book that gets overlooked is in order to become an investor, entrepreneur, you need to know how to sell. You need to know how to interact with people and enroll them and connect with them. And so that was one of the biggest takeaways I got. So at that moment, I decided not to get into social work per se and actually pursue more of a sales position. And I ended up working for about 10 years while my husband and I built our portfolio. I started working for a company where I helped companies with a personality profiling and hiring and really management development, but I sold our products to companies. So I learned that skill, if you will, of selling. So as I grew that and transitioned to leaving that and working full-time with my husband, we scaled our portfolio. So a lot of different asset classes over the years, quite honestly, but we really got our niche in multifamily, larger multifamily. So we own and control about 2,000 units in about 5 states. We've done new construction. We've had commercial buildings. We have raw land. I've done tons of fix and flips, doing a ground up construction project right now. So involved in a lot of different aspects of real estate over the years. And quickly put, while I was building my own portfolio, I met my now partner and co-founder, Andressa. And we would go to events as we were active investors and be like, where are the women in this business? And this was 8 years ago, right? And we're like, where are they?
Right.
And then we also had different moments of our own life we were going through. I just had my first kiddo and felt like I had everything on paper, but I was missing something, some meaning and purpose in my own life. And she was going through a divorce, and she was missing some meaning and purpose. And so we kind of put our heads together and said, what would be really purposeful and passionate about is serving and connecting women and creating a community where women felt safe to invest and to build their wealth on their own terms. So that was the original premise 8 years ago. And we've grown since then, and really all about supporting women in this space of growing their wealth, right? On their own way, but on their own terms. It's really important.
Yeah. No, I love that. Well, okay. So I have so many questions, but I'll dive into kind of first your group. So you guys started it 8 years ago, you said.
Yeah. Start our podcast. Yeah. We started our podcast about 8 years ago.
Okay. That's so cool. And then did you also start building the online community at that same time?
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because at first we were like, we just need to do something. So we started a podcast, and we're like, let's start a Facebook group, because that would make sense if there's anyone that wants to be part of this with us. And what started with like 40 of our people that we knew, liked, and trusted, just join our Facebook group. We have about 17,000 women now in that Facebook group. And then over time, we'd be listening and hearing what women wanted and needed. And okay, what could we put in place so we can create that community, right? And so we formed a mentorship program called Strive, which is for women who are growing their portfolio and are just quite honestly doing it all alone. Right. So we developed that. We launched InvestHer Con, which I'm so excited that you're here to be at, and one of our featured partners there. And that's going to be for women who are growing their portfolios and they're looking to up level themselves and their portfolios by getting the right content and being around the right support network, right? So we've kind of grown both online and offline, and we're
It's cool.
transitioning to a platform soon. So there's even more community building online for the women in our group. But yeah, definitely nationwide, and just all about serving that woman who's tired of doing it by herself, right? She's doing all the doing.
Yep. Yeah, no, I love that. In fact, I joined your Facebook group a few years ago just because I was like, oh, wow, women's only investor group. How cool is that? And just be able to glean information from there. So you've done a lot of attendance in like kind of the male dominated groups, if you will. I mean, they're not just only guy groups, but
Yeah.
they're tend to be more male dominated
Yeah.
versus like your own event. What is the biggest difference that you see or that you feel, or maybe your attendees see and feel between
Yeah,
the two?
it's a great question because I've spoken at and attended lots of different conferences. And it's interesting to see the differences and then to feel those differences, right? I think for InvestHer Con, women are seasoned that are coming. They've done deals, they have experience, they're driven, they're ambitious, they're fun, they're all the things, right? And they put their head down and focus. When they come to InvestHer Con, it's like you're coming home to being around other like-minded individuals that are living shared experiences. My life is not the same as your life, Stacey, and no one's life's the same. But there's some sort of like connection, especially as women, as moms, as aunts, as all kind of like that generational baggage, quite honestly, that's been handed down, that's independent of me living in Pennsylvania, you living where you're living, that we share as women and what we want out of life. And so there's so much more commonality of these women than differences. And so the women coming are meeting women that they can partner with, that they can network with, they can up level, they can help, and then someone else can help them. It's less of a conference, I'd say, and more of an experience where women are leaving, having friendships created and a new idea born in their mind, and then the how to do it versus just going to a conference with a bunch of people. What I find is that most conferences are all about, well, how many doors do you own? And how big is your net worth? And I think women should be talking more about what we do and how we own what we own. I don't mean that women should dismiss that at all. But women are more in the frame of, I want to be here and I'm here. How do I get there? And how can I support you? How can you support me? So I don't know, the masks aren't on, and there's just this more camaraderie and collaboration than, well, I'm here to get what I need and I'm out, right? That's not the feeling. And that's what makes the conference more of an experience than and I believe a traditional conference.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love everything you just said. So I'm super excited to be able to join as a sponsor in June. And I know, I mean, coming from the industry, because I've been in it a little over 20 years as well, it has been more male dominated. I mean, definitely on the investor side, but he's being an owner broker of a real estate firm and a property management company, going in those rooms. And it does tend to be that. In fact, going to property management conferences, it is, well, how many doors do you have? And what's your ROI, what's your NOI, all the things, right?
All the things,
so I love that it's still that business, but kind of leveling up and being able to maybe embrace those identities, I'm assuming. So that's really cool. As far as kind of like talking about yourself, so you mentioned that you guys have 2,000 doors. Is that correct?
With investors, right?
With
Not just me personally. But yes, with other people.
Well, it's still huge. I mean, even, So, and you're multi-state. And so now, do you self-manage those, or do you have property management companies, or how does that work?
Yeah, we've gone through iterations and an evolution with property management. I'd say we have this love-hate relationship with property management. Just kidding, right? You're in the business.
I know.
When we started, I just want to share a little backdrop. When we started out, we kind of built our property management team. Everything was local. So we were investing only in New Jersey.
Okay.
And so it just made sense. Everything was within about a half hour. So we had a leasing agent, we had a maintenance tech, we had our tenant relations person, we had our bookkeeper, we had everybody in-house. And as we started to go out of state, we had to ask the question, are we going to build a team there, or are we going to begin to outsource and bring in a third-party management company? So at the time of buying our first, at that time, larger property, about 49 units, and it was an hour and a half from our house, we had to really think through what we were going to do. And I remember talking to Matt, my husband, and like, what are we really great at? And I don't know if you'd say property management was like the best thing that we were doing. So you have to run it very operationally efficiently, right? And so there's a huge operational element to really good property managers. We did enough and we were doing our best, but I don't know if we were like a 10 out of 10. So we said, what are we great at? And we really leaned into what we did well and said, okay, let's shift up our business model and start outsourcing to a third-party management company. Now, years later, we started to get so many units in certain states that it made sense to bring it back in-house and build out a kind of like a vertical company that was property management.
Right.
We're going through some shifts with that too. We've had a company for a few years now, and we're actually transitioning back to an outside company for a variety of reasons. So we've really kind of been through all of the iterations of it. I would just say when a lot of investors start bringing it in-house and they start doing it themselves, it's a business and it
Oh,
should
it
be
is.
treated as such. And it wasn't that we weren't treating it as a business, but it needs to be run top end with the highest level of efficiencies. And when you're bringing that back in-house and you're learning those things, there's a learning curve. And some people put those processes and system in place and others struggle with it. So I think we're always leaning into like, where do we shine? What do we do well? Where can we partner? And that's always a question depending on partners and team and people and all of the above.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think you hit on a key point and something that I've spoke about the last several years, especially when I talk to investors, because I used to manage for quite a few local home builder clients. And so kind of that same thing, like they would bounce back and forth. Do I keep it in-house? Do I have your company manage it? But that was my business. I mean, it was literally like I was an expert. I knew everything inside and out, landlord tenant law, all the operations. Now with AI, incorporating all that in. But at the same time, then you also bring up another good point. I mean, you could also keep it in-house. And that's one thing I'm working on is teaching people like how to go out and purchase a property management company, right? So that is something an investor could look at as they build their portfolio.
Yeah.
But maybe not them specifically running it. So I think it's also hiring the right people. But then again, another thing to manage, a whole nother business. So
it's I think there's models out there. I think one of my biggest frustrations is people often are like, what's the right way? Well,
right.
there isn't a right way. It depends on all of the above, like time, experience, energy. And even when people say, what's the right strategy for me? I mean, how am I going to tell you the right strategy for you? And I do think there are a lot of thought leaders and people out there that are saying this is the way if you want to build wealth in real estate. And I just don't think there is a way. And I think we need to get away from that and saying what's going to work for my life. It's going to be different than yours, especially when it comes to property management. I mean, that is hands down something that it's a legit business, and you got to have you got to have your stuff together.
You do. Yeah. Especially depending on what state you're in as well. So I love that. So is that kind of the theme where you work with, like, you're teaching your community members there is no right or wrong way? Because I feel like, again, and that this is not like a male bashing episode, but I feel like a lot of what I would call like the guy gurus out there that are like, this is how you do it. This is the only way. They're standing in front of a Lamborghini that they probably rented for their video.
They don't even know their Lamborghini. They don't even know their Lamborghini.
Right. Their 1989 Honda Civic is back parked in the parking lot. But anyway, so is that kind of more like your vibe as far as teaching women? There is no right or wrong. Like, what do you want for your life? So I don't know if you want to talk more about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we get into that a lot. We do a lot of masterminding with our mentees Strive, and we'll be on there and I'll get a question. Is it the right time for me to buy an STR, or should I hold on to my money right now because I'm not seeing things that are making sense financially? So there's always those strategic investing questions that we all have, right? And that's very normal, very real. But to just answer those in a vacuum, I think we're doing people a disservice because I can take a lot of roads, but are they leading where I want them to go? And do I know where I want to go? Right. So I'll often say, we just wrapped up a training last week about goal setting. And I said, before you can figure out your goal, like, what's your North Star? What does success look like to you? And it could look differently to everyone. And something that's going to get you excited. Often you'll say, okay, in 5 years, where do you want to be? And women will go, I want to make this amount of passive income, and I want to travel, and I want to do this. And then they're like a 6 out of 10. This woman was talking the other day, and she just kind of shared what her North Star was, but it wasn't exciting, honestly. And I'm like, your vision doesn't need to be exciting to me. It should be exciting to you though, but you don't look excited. You look kind of like, I can take it, I can leave it. I said, what would excite you? She goes, well, if you really want to know. And then she started sharing of what that North Star looks like for her. And she lit up, she got a little more energy. I was like, well, that is your North Star, my dear. It's not the I want this in passive income. I want to, it's rote, it's basic, no offense, and it's not exciting. And our North Star should be exciting. So, so she said that. And then the question can say, okay, does it make sense for me to buy a property now with that intent in mind? Now that becomes much clearer. The answer becomes much more, is this going to move me towards my goals, or is this going to deter me?
Right.
Maybe passively investing with so-and-so makes sense, because then I can learn how to do new construction, which aligns with where I want to be, versus, again, it's like people try to piecemeal a puzzle and they have no idea what the picture of what they're even trying to create is. I think that's the biggest mistake. And I know for me, when I'm really in between decisions, I ask myself, like, okay, let me reconnect, because I'm missing that. Where am I headed? Okay, what's going to make sense then? And then decision-making becomes simpler and easier and more, I don't know, easier for us to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you mind sharing what your North Star is?
Yeah. My North Star right now, and it's evolved. And I think that's the other thing, is it's not like I've had the same North Star 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I didn't have any property. We didn't have any assets. So our North Star was owning property and making passive income, right? And we always wanted to move to a community that we loved. And we had this vision, having a family. We have that, right? We achieved those things. So for me and my husband, we're active investors as well as passive, right? We have both of those going, and we're active and passive in multiple businesses right now. So I think for our North Star in 5 years, we really see our passive opportunities increasing, our active percentage going down. Not that I wouldn't be active in anything, especially like InvestHer and things that I'm incredibly passionate about, but are having a bigger team or more streamlined processes and systems. So we have more free time. We have more time to do passion projects. One of my passion projects is doing more service work around the country, like in the world. Like that is something that really excites me. And it could be with children, it could be with women. Those are two groups that are really, so creating more space to do that. I do that. I want to do it more. I'd like to do it more. So my kids will be a little older. They're still going to be at home. So it's not like I'm going to be traveling the world. I don't need to be doing that 100% of the time. But it's like time, right? I'm always looking at my North Star and like, where am I spending my time? So I feel like I'm spending my time on my own terms now. I want to continue to see it shift and evolve, where I'm doing more service work, to be honest. That would be an increase in 5 years.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I know. Last year I turned 50, and it was a big,
it's a big one.
It was a big one. And I'm totally embracing it. I've told everybody, I'm like, I'm 50, I'll be 51 here shortly. But I know kind of that, like, I had shifted. So I know back in 2016, when I had opened my own property management firm, a single mom of 3 at the time, and my kids were young. And so I had kind of this 10-year like goal of North Star, and I've reached it. But this last year I shifted and came up with another like new mantra. I create a life where I can chase sunshine and be present for my family, because I still want to be present for my family, even though my kids are adults, but it's a different kind of like presence.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of same with you. I mean, I also love service work. I'm a Rotarian. I don't know if you're in a service-based club, but
I was in Interact when I was in high school.
Oh, that's so cool.
Back in the day. Yes, I'm familiar with, because I know Interact is like the high school version of Rotary.
Yep, it is. It is. So yeah. But one thing I really want to do is actually help the sea turtles. I want to be the volunteer that like has a special t-shirt that just walks the beach at sunrise and counts the nests or whatever.
It's funny you say that, because my son is all about sea turtles. He's brought that up to me multiple times. So I don't know. I got to get him connected to some organizations, because he brings it up all the time. I'm like, I'm not sure what organizations help sea turtles. So now you're intriguing me to look into it.
Well, we have a place in South Carolina. We have a short-term rental in South Carolina, North Myrtle Beach. And I've seen the ladies in the t-shirts walking up and down the beach. So yeah,
they really do have t-shirts. So that's funny. Okay.
Yeah, they do. Well, I know. Gotcha. I mean, I'm sure you get one as a volunteer, but I'm like, that's one of my goals.
I love that.
Yeah. And really time, like for me, time also really kind of hit home when I turned 50. I was like, oh my gosh, because you're just plugging along and you're doing the things. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I don't know how many more good years I have left. And so for me, I know like my filter is really time. If somebody wants to have a meeting with me, like, do I really want to execute that time, or what is it that I really want to do? And even going back to investing, is that actually going to move me forward? Or is that something that's going to drag down my time? That's,
Yeah.
am I doing it for ego? Because I think a lot of out in there in the internet world, it's a lot of like ego, right?
Absolutely.
Versus, I feel like you guys have built a really awesome community where it's no ego. That's not here. It's just kind of more for you. So that's cool.
Yeah, no. And it is about the values. Comes back to values. Like, what do I value? And for me too, even the investing projects I've taken on actively, me and my husband are doing a ground up construction project in our town, which we've never done anything locally, but it's a community that is a high demand, low supply, a little more of an expensive market. And there's just not a lot of homes. So it's an opportunity. And there's a lot of people who want to live here. So we took this project on, but I have to tell you, obviously the finances have to work and everything along those lines, time, money, energy. But my kids haven't seen a lot of the local projects because we used to have only local. Then we went out of state. Then we had kids. So they didn't see the early days of me and my husband, like putting furniture together or cleaning apartments. Like they didn't see that and experience that. So not that I'm literally building this house myself because I have a GC and everything.
Right.
I don't want to make believe I'm building this house, but I'm going there and I'm managing it. I'm going there more often than I would if it was further. But at least on a weekly basis, we meet there. We talk about the project, where we at, and they're able to see it. They're able to see the progression. The house came down. Now the framing is up. So that was a big reason I wanted to do this project, not just for the financial. And I think when we ask those questions of like, what is not my buy box, but like my investment box, things become a little more meaningful than, oh, it's just to make money. Well, yeah, that's obvious because you don't want to lose money. But beyond that, though, making money isn't going to do it for me only, honestly. It just isn't not like when it was when we started. So there has to be a little bit of a deeper connection here. Am I solving a problem? Am I helping people? What's really in it for me too? So I can feel excited and everything. So
yeah, that's really cool. So do you have your children kind of involved as well so they can kind of see the process? Or have you taken them a few times at least?
I have. Yeah. When we went there, it was a single family home and it got torn down because it just was obsolete, the structure of it. So we're rebuilding. And my daughter went in there and I gave her some tools just to start doing whatever she wanted to do. We just had a little fun there. But yeah, it's 2 miles away. So we're in the winter. So right now we can't really bike. But when the weather was conducive and the weather was cooperative, we'd ride our bike and I'd just walk the property a little bit with them and tell them like, what are we doing? Decisions we're making, challenges we're having, all of the above, not just the good things, but like, how are we working around challenges? I mean, it hasn't snowed in the Northeast like it has in such a long time. Our project's been delayed for 2 weeks. And I had to explain to them, you know what that means when a project's delayed? They're like, yeah, you just wait. I'm like, no, you want to know how much it's costing me right now for this property to sit with? They're like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's costing me this amount of money. And it wasn't like, it's not $100. This is a lot. This is a $2 million property I torn down. Right. So this is some serious carrying costs. They're like, wow. So it's like giving them a little bit of education as we're going. And I said, well, we'll get back on track, but these are things out of my control. So then I'm like, what can I be doing? So I'm talking to the designer. We're starting to figure out, because we're just in framing, what decisions can we make so we can get some things out of the way? Like that kind of conversation. They're 8 and 12. So I can have a little more of a conversation with them. And they're also invested in the property. So they have savings. And they're two private lenders. I mean, obviously, we didn't just need their money. That was great. They were very minor, small investors in this project. But regardless, they are, and they understand that they lent their money to us, to the business. And we negotiated a return, and they know their money's in the property. So that's kind of neat too.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. I love that you've incorporated your kids in a smart way, not just like giving them like, oh, someday you're going to get this. I love that they, and learn like firsthand. That's really cool for sure. That's awesome. So I'd love to talk more about your conference that's coming up in June, Scottsdale, right? Yeah. Beautiful town.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. And it's going to be great. Shouldn't be too hot. It'll be great weather for me. I'm from the Pacific Northwest. So I'm excited.
You'll be like, welcome the warmth.
I know, right? I'll be like, oh my gosh, sunshine. I like never see this.
I love that.
Yeah, but I'd love to know kind of more like, what should we expect? People who attend, like who are they going to see? What are we going to hear? All that kind of good stuff.
Just to give you some history, we went to a conference me and Andressa about 7 years ago when we started InvestHer. and we looked around and there was no women keynoting. And
Mm.
the only women we saw were women on the stage on a panel.
Uh-huh.
And the funny thing that they were talking about on the panel was what it's like to be a woman as a real estate investor. And that's a shared experience that's helpful to discuss on one level, certainly.
Yep.
That's the only thing the woman on the stage is talking about is what it's like to be a woman investor. Seriously? Like that kind of annoyed me because she probably knows a ton about raising capital or multifamily or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
So that was a pain point for us. And we really wanted to shift the dialogue, and not just the dialogue of what was being discussed, but who was discussing it. So we said, if we have a conference, women will be speaking from the main stage, they'll be doing breakouts. And we wanted to also be something where it wasn't just content, but it was really about community building and networking in a very mindful way. We even call it intentional networking, because networking could be intentional. It also could be completely random, to be honest. And the women coming don't have time for the randomness, to be honest. They're at a point where not that everyone they have to meet has to change their life, but it has to be a meaningful conversation, something that they can have some back and forth. You'll either meet like the next STR mogul, or you're meeting somebody who doesn't even know where they are. And you're like, do you even know where you are? Like, honestly, do you even know where you are? I literally just had that experience. I went to a conference. I was like, this is why I can't go to conferences, because my level of expectation, right, is so high. But no, for InvestorCom, so we have keynotes and breakouts, but the content's special because we focus on real estate investing, business, and self-care. So we'll have a session on your mindset and your brain and how to really optimize that. We'll also have really excited about Kate Lazarus. She has written a book called Shoveling Shit. And it's all about her and her husband have built and sold over, I don't know, $200 billion worth of companies, like really successful serial entrepreneur. And she is coming from the space of partnership, because that's a big need for women in our group and communities. I may want to partner with somebody either financially or on a project or in the business. How do I navigate that? That's one of the biggest pain points for a lot of the women in our community, because they get tapped with where they are and they know they need to grow or maybe not grow. So she's talking about partnerships. And then we have some great real estate sessions, and from estate planning on how to protect your real estate to cost segregation to short-term rentals. So we really are very diverse in our topics. It's not just how to find a deal, because that, no offense, is like something you just go on ChatGPT, figure out the hot markets. We have sessions that you can't use ChatGPT for. And it's about that higher level thinking. And this is my portfolio. Where do I go from here strategically? And what tools do I need to help me get there? And so that's our philosophy around it. And then to have baked in intentional networking time, which is really, really important and exciting. It's 2.5 days. We have workshops. We kick it off with on Sunday. One is on AI. So AI is literally changing as we speak in the moment, but the Dr. Rachel, who is one of our pod mentors, is leading that workshop all about, because she's creating bots and this, and she's hacking it really well in the STR arena. And so she's going to teach about that. It's a workshop. So very hands-on. Another workshop's on raising capital, which is again, another barrier to entry for a lot of women. They've raised capital, they work with private lenders, or they want to. They just, how do I really present to people in a way that works, and all of the above that comes with that. So again, conversations that are really helping women grow their businesses, not just their information that we need. So that's a little bit about the conference. And then we end on a big party. And then we have full days, Monday, Tuesday. We start on time, we end on time. We're no BS type of people and community. We're not just going to lollygag and people chit chat all day. No offense, I love chatting, but this conference is very focused. And it's for that driven woman who's there to move the needle and quite honestly leave with connections that she wouldn't have had, gotten information, learned resources she just wouldn't have gotten from being here 2.5 days. So that's what and we have wonderful sponsors and partners like you that are actually solving women's problems. They're actually solving their challenges. I literally get on the phone and have an application and vet every single company that wants to be at InvestorCon, not because I don't have anything to do, but because we really want to ensure that we have the right resources of quality companies that actually are there to solve and support women in their growth. That's important. And that's a unique as well, because women love talking to the companies that are there and connecting, because they know we're vetting them. They know they're going through our filters, which isn't always the case. We just don't want to waste anyone's time, your time, their time, anyone that's involved. It's like, how do we do this in an efficient and really deep way?
Yeah, I love that. Well, I love all of that. So as far as like attendees, I mean, is it for like newbie investors, like maybe mid, they already are investors, or like any woman who's
Yeah,
interested in investing?
we've become obsessed with knowing the women who come to our conference and who we looking to serve. And at the end of the day, if you're serving everyone, you're serving no one. And
Correct.
so, so something that really is the shared is that this is a driven woman who really wants to build wealth through real estate. Now, she could do that either passively or actively, and most women are doing it both.
Okay.
If she's new to investing in real estate, typically she has business experience. She's run another business. She's at a point in her life, she may have sold her business and said, I really want to buy property or dive into this realm of real estate. If she's an experienced woman, she typically, so just to give you some stats, last year we had over 55% of women had over 5 properties in the room. So half the room own property and have more than 5. And about 45% had about $1 million in net worth or more. We polled everyone, and there's about 250 women in the room, and we had 1.95 billion of assets under management in the room. So again, varying degrees. You have some women who have a couple properties. You have some women who have 40, 50 properties and everything in between. So it's a really neat group of women that you're going to up level, right? You're not just sitting next to someone who, again, doesn't know where she is. That's not who is at the conference.
Right.
I mean, everyone you meet, you're like, whoa, she's more impressive than that woman. In a really supportive way, in a very, how do we collaborate and connect and support each other way, not well, I'm going to outsmart you here. So that's who is there. But yeah, if somebody hasn't invested before, but they want to, and they have the wherewithal, they have the interest, they're driven, and they want to be around other like-minded women, yeah, we want you there. We also want the women that are looking to always up level and, quite honestly, run their properties, run their portfolio more efficiently, effectively. That's a big one. A lot of women run properties and they don't even have property and don't even know how they're doing financially. Right?
Yeah, that is a big disconnect. I know I see that a lot, like with clients that I work for or work with in my business as well. That seems to be a big thing, especially like when you go to conferences and it's very male dominated and you're one of the only females. And I've been there where I didn't feel comfortable even admitting that I had no idea like what they were talking about, or I had an idea, but I wasn't able to spout off what they were. And who knows if they were even being honest, but whatever.
That's true.
So
it's true. And we ran this 5-day challenge, and a lot of women are scared to look at the numbers, whether it was upbringing or societal kind of baggage. I call it societal baggage because I really do think there's a shared baggage that gets given to women that has literally nothing to do with my actual family or my own upbringing. I do believe that. And so who said women are not good with numbers? Women are great with numbers. We just need to look at them and have an ability. Like, women are super smart, women, very capable. And when I hear a woman saying, "Oh, I don't want to look at the numbers," I said, looking at the numbers and having a pulse is going to help you make better decisions. And this is coming from someone who, I'm like an idea person. I'm a relationship person. Me and spreadsheets, I would rather be doing so many other things, cleaning bathrooms. But now I'm at a point that I actually really like spreadsheets. I really like looking at the numbers, not every day, but it helps me even in a portfolio or a property that's not performing as well or is performing well, because it gives you insight. Okay, what do I need to do differently to move the needle? And it's not me. I'm not the property. And I think that's the work too that we get into is it's the superficial conversations that happen at a lot of conferences. We go deep. We even bring women up on the stage, like, what's coming up for you? Okay, that's the tactical answer because that's an easy fix. But now let's really talk about you and what's coming up for you as a woman, as a leader. That's the work. And that's really where we go. We're not therapists, but you can't avoid those conversations if you're trying to grow your wealth. You're in that, right? So that's the beautiful part about really developing ourselves too along the way as we build our wealth.
Right. Yeah. I love all that. Well, I'm very excited, I think. And we'll
excited
have
to have you.
we'll have all the information for your conference and everything in the show notes for sure. So people can click the link and hopefully buy tickets, because I'm assuming tickets are on sale, right?
Yes. We're at a beautiful resort this year. The goal is to sell out because it's a space that's limited in nature. Beautiful resort though. And it's really right on the mountains. I think it's like the number one spa in Scottsdale is at this particular site. It's an Omni brand. So I'm excited to be there. But yeah, get your ticket. I would love to personally support you because I'm going to be running around as the host. So if there's something that I can answer for you, you can definitely ask me and I'm happy to help you there.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, maybe I'll book a couple extra days and use the
I
spa to
I would highly
decompress,
recommend
like
it.
after,
Highly
yeah,
recommend it.
after everything, because it sounds like it's going to be
Oh,
right up my alley. Well, yeah, full plus really diving deep into your personal self and like your identity and, you know,
yeah,
who you are now as a woman and where you want to be and that future identity and plus all the good stuff in between. So
absolutely.
I can't wait. That's exciting. Yeah. Well, I, again, really want to thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add before we sign off?
I would say that the one thing we do also during the conference and on every call that I'm part of is, what's your one takeaway as you're listening to this, right? And kudos to you for engaging in content and listening and growing yourself. The worst thing you could do, and especially for me when I'm listening to content or a podcast, is to do nothing. And it doesn't have to be a huge thing, right? So if you're like, I'm going to review my 15 properties P&L statements tomorrow, well, Godspeed, but I don't even know if I would make that an action step. But maybe it's something you were inspired, one simple action step, because what I've found is like small things, small actions create momentum.
Yep.
And it also builds confidence in ourselves. So I can't instill confidence in people or women. That's not the business we're in. However, taking small actions does instill confidence within the women that I see. So do something with what you got today. Just take one literally small action step, put on my calendar to visit this property, to maybe do a walkthrough that I don't have that on my calendar, or whatever's coming up for you. I don't know,
Right.
but write it down and do it. I think would be my last thing to share as a suggestion. And come to InvestHer. We'd love to have you there and invite you to be there with us and play in the arena and build wealth on your own terms. That's what we stand for. We're very mission oriented. So,
yeah. Well, I love that. Yeah. Action creates clarity. Right. So
it does.
yep. And yep, obviously you are an action taker and you'll have a lot of action takers at your conference. And that honestly could be one of your actions if you're listening to this, and
yes,
go click the link and check it out. And I know I would love to meet the people as well. So thank you again so much for coming on today. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully the weather holds for you.
Yes. Yeah. It should be interesting.
I know. All right. Well,
Thanks for
thank you.
having me.
Yeah. All right. Have a great day.